What's up, everybody? We got some fight news. UFC 331 is official, going down in LA September 19th in the main event. We got Joshua Van defending his flyweight title against Alexandre Pantoja, the former flyweight champion, in a very highly anticipated rematch. And honestly, the fight that absolutely had to happen. Pantoja, being a long reigning flyweight champion, who I look at as the greatest flyweight of all time and one of the greatest fighters of all time, it was a fluke the way it went down the first time. Not Joshua Van's fault, not Pantoja's fault. Falls down, posts the arm, the fight gets stopped. We need clarity on this matchup, and it is a lot more interesting this time around, in my opinion, because first time around, there were a lot of questions about the ground game of Joshua Van and how he was going to be able to deal with the crafty and savviness of the chaos that Pantoja brings to the table. But now that Van went out there and beat the brakes off Tatsuro Taira, as I predicted, because I know a lot of people were picking Taira to win that fight, not trusting Van's ground game, but I've been saying, man, Taira can't grapple like Pantoja. But having said that, Joshua Van is building momentum. He is building steam. He is gaining in confidence. And I feel like this is going to be a much tougher fight this time around for Pantoja. And I am very excited for this rematch. And people are complaining that we got a flyweight title on the line in the main event. Excuse me. Flyweight is literally arguably the best division in the UFC right now. Welterweight and flyweight, and I've been saying, listen, welterweight's absolutely loaded and maybe the most stacked division of all time in UFC history. Flyweight is right up there, and flyweight personally is my favorite division in the UFC right now. Pantoja is a legend. Put some respect on his name. And Joshua Van, one of the best strikers in UFC history, honestly, especially when it comes to the boxing and in particular in the flyweight division. He's the best striker in this weight class. Banger matchup going down in the main event, and the co-main event, we got the return of Arman Tsarukyan versus Mauricio Ruffy. Now, there were rumblings saying that this was supposed to be Arman versus Charles, which was what a lot of us were anticipating, was, getting that rematch, and the winner presumably would move on and fight Gaethje. And unfortunately, the passing of Allan Nascimento, rest in peace, man, that is absolutely devastating news. And obviously, a training partner and dear friend of Charles Oliveira, that is the last thing that Charles needs to be worrying about right now, is fighting. So my condolences to Shote Box, Charles Oliveira, Allan Nascimento's family, man. Rest in peace, because, it's crushing, man. And the reality is, Charles Oliveira, the time is not now to be fighting. So enter Mauricio Ruffy to be stepping in here. And I was like, maybe they're going to reschedule Arman, right? Because I was hearing rumblings that Oliveira could potentially be out. Maybe they move Arman and Oliveira to next year or whatever. The reality is, we need Arman Tsarukyan back in the octagon. And shout out to the always game and down the ball Mauricio Ruffy for stepping in against an elite 155er with one of the best ground games that I think we have ever seen in mixed martial arts in Arman Tsarukyan. And by the way, Arman's became a massive star over about the past year, from the streaming to, the brawls at RAF and all the grappling competitions that he's been doing. This is a big-time co-main event, and what you need to kind of support a flyweight title fight main event. So the UFC knew what they were doing here. Obviously, there's a big Armenian population in LA, so I know they wanted Arman on this card. This is a banger co-main event. We'll break it down a little bit more when we get to it, and then we'll take a look at all of the fights that have been announced. And listen, the UFC was on their P's and Q's. They were kind of, slowly rolling out some fight news. Moicano, Ortega, some of the others, which we'll get to a little later in the video. This is a loaded card, man. There are so many people out here, like, fight fans are just like, it's almost like fight fans are so unrealistic these days. And I know that I'm not perfect and I complain a little bit here and there, but this is a really good card, man. And it is a very, very fun card. So when we get to the rest of the card, I'll explain why I think that this is a very fun card. In terms of the action, it's going to be very, very entertaining. So first, we'll talk about the main event, between Van and Pantoja in the rematch. We'll talk about Arman, versus Ruffy, and then we'll talk a little bit about the rest of the card and why I think that this is a loaded card with some sneaky good fights. So let's talk about the main event first, because this is a blockbuster flyweight title fight. I don't care what anybody says. Listen, this is a big-time fight in the flyweight division, because I've said before, look, if you don't think Pantoja's the flyweight GOAT, the only other option is Demetrius Johnson. And I know when I say Pantoja's the flyweight GOAT, that is, everyone's going to have their opinion on it. I just feel like Pantoja's resume is louder than what Demetrius Johnson's is. And I know it's not Mighty Mouse's fault because he was just fighting who was around at that time. But you can't tell me when you look at Mighty Mouse's resume that a lot of those wins, Pantoja beats probably all those guys. At least most of them. I don't know if he would beat a prime Cejudo, but still. Pantoja's out here beating Moreno, which I know Moreno nowadays, not the same guy, but Moreno a few years ago, dog. Brandon Royval, still a dog. Steve Erceg at the time, right? So Pantoja has some outstanding wins. Manel Cap as well. And this is a big-time opportunity for Pantoja to go out here in terms of legacy and just getting his belt back, man. And I met Pantoja at 319, and he's a really, really nice guy. He's a really cool dude. And heading into the first fight, I had picked Pantoja to beat Joshua Van, and it's the only time that I've picked against Joshua Van because I've said that his takedown defense is very underrated. We got to see it against Ray Cerrulla, and that was a fight that was going to help Joshua Van in the long run, a guy that's a very high-level grappler that's only going to look to grapple with Van the entire time. So that was something that was going to benefit a very young Joshua Van in the long run. I knew he was going to bang up Tatsuro Taira, man. Joshua Van, his takedown defense is not only outstanding, but if you watch how he was operating against Taira, he is very, very understanding of what is going on the ground. He's not some guy that's, stuffing takedowns and preventing the fight from hitting the floor. He will get taken down, immediately gets his butterfly hooks in. He does all of the little technical things that you're supposed to do while digging for an overhook, grabbing the whizzer to prevent the back takes from happening. And those were all such key important details to see from Van in that fight because there is no better back taker that we have seen in the history of this division than Alexandre Pantoja. And I believe Pantoja has the second best rear naked choke in the game behind one Charles Oliveira, the most prolific finisher in the history of the sport. Pantoja's nasty if he gets your back. And if he gets the back of Joshua Van, it's over and Pantoja will submit him. Here's the problem. Pantoja's only getting older, right? And I know that in the lighter weight classes, he's a guy that's kind of been an example of still being able to kind of fight off some of the up-and-comers and doing what he has to do to, keep the throne and this and that, but suffering the injury. Then you're trying to, bounce back from that. Now you got the time away and you're going to come back against a super active Joshua Van who's only getting better and better. Like, do we think Pantoja's getting better and better and better from fight to fight now? Like, I know that you hear the saying, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like, you still kind of can. But for a guy like Pantoja who's so set in his ways as a fighter, I just don't know that he's going to be making the same kind of improvements as a guy like Joshua Van. It's not to say Pantoja can win this, can't win this fight. But the reality is where my head is at right now, man, I think Joshua Van is going to bust up Pantoja. And it's gonna sting, man, because I'm a big fan of both of these guys. I've been a big-time fan of Pantoja for years. I've been saying that he's the goated flyweight, man. But the reality is Joshua Van is so slick. His boxing's the best we've seen in this weight class. He's got some of the best boxing in the UFC, period. He rips to the body well. And as good as Pantoja is on the ground, we've seen that Joshua Van is not afraid to go to that area. He knows how to defend. He knows how to get back to the feet. And having that Taira matchup, and I was telling everyone to pump the brakes. They're like, Taira's the best grappler in this weight class. Not so fast, it's Pantoja. So if Pantoja's getting Van down, there's a very different threat. But the reality is for Pantoja on the feet, I think Joshua Van is the best striker he's ever fought. Joshua Van is so good, man. His boxing is clean. His low kicks are nasty. He is hittable, but so is Pantoja. And I know that Pantoja has that, berserker style where he comes charging in with these blitzing combos, smashing the leg kicks, throwing the high kicks. And he did look good early in that fight from what we saw, to be fair. But Joshua Van's one of these guys who likes to kind of build into the fight. And having went almost a full 25 minutes before he was able to get the stoppage, over Taira in the later part of that fight, Joshua Van's cardio is no problem. He can throw punches in bunches, and we are seeing improvements every single time he steps in there. So for a guy that was picking Pantoja the first time, and even though Van did win, it's fluky, right? That's not a legitimate win in my opinion. However, Joshua Van won the belt, realized his dreams. I get it, man. Talking a little bit of smack, building it up a little bit. I don't like maybe some of the things he said, like Pantoja should know how to fall. Like it was a freak accident, man. The reality is Van is a world-class talent. The time away from Pantoja, coming off the injury, seeing the improvements that we've seen in Van's game. Pantoja is going to have to get Joshua Van down in a hurry. He's going to have to clip him with something big, get to his back, and try to lock in a rear naked choke within the first couple, because if Van starts to get it going and starts to build in confidence, it's a snowballing effect with Van to where he'll start to rip to the body, take wind out of the sails, and then start to bring the shots around the guard and find a way to get you out of there. So my early prediction, I am going to favor Joshua Van to get this one done by a decision. I could possibly even see a later stage stoppage, considering Pantoja is rather hittable, and he is getting a little bit older in this new gen of MMA fighter, man, especially at flyweight. These dudes are some savages, man. Flyweight, put some respect on this division's name, because this is a banger fight, one of my favorite fights that's been booked in 2026. We get clarity on the rematch, banger matchup. Love both of these guys. May the best man win. Co-main event. Hey, man, there was a great philosopher that once said, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. IGBBMN, right? Now it's going to be good, man. So it's going to be bad for somebody, but it's also going to be really good for somebody. The reality is, I'm going to blow you away with this breakdown. Ready? If Arman Tsarukyan gets Ruffy down, it's over and Ruffy's going to get destroyed. If Arman Tsarukyan cannot get Mauricio Ruffy down, Arman Tsarukyan is toast. That's how this fight goes. I don't think people are putting enough respect on Mauricio Ruffy's name. This is just a foregone conclusion, like we shouldn't even have the fight. Who wants to see this, man? Arman Tsarukyan is going to destroy Mauricio Ruffy. Ruffy doesn't stand a chance. Who the hell do you guys think Arman Tsarukyan is? Who do you think Mauricio Ruffy is? Mauricio Ruffy, in my opinion, is a top 5 striker in the UFC. He's by far the best striker that Arman Tsarukyan has ever fought. By far. And I know that Arman Tsarukyan is by far the best grappler and most well-rounded fighter that Mauricio Ruffy has ever fought. But the reality is Mauricio Ruffy, he takes this shit serious, man. This is a guy that is willing to fight anybody, anytime, any place. This is why the UFC likes Ruffy. They call, bring, Mauricio, can you take the fight? He's like, brother, I'm there, right? Or whatever, in Portuguese, And that's the reality. Mauricio Ruffy is nasty on the feet, man. You don't set up and knock out Rafael Fiziev like that if you are not unbelievably high level and really razor sharp. And I've been saying ever since Contender Series, Mauricio Ruffy, he's an X-Factor fighter. He's got the it factor, and he's got the goods, and look where we are now. Stepping in like a certified badass to take on Arman Tsarukyan, a guy that a lot of people don't want to face because of how dangerous he is. So that's the breakdown. I know Arman Tsarukyan's, striking has gotten a little bit better, but man, Ruffy will toy with him on the feet. When people are like, Arman will show him levels on the ground. Yeah, it's the same thing on the feet, man. It's the same thing on the feet. So my early lean, I think Mauricio Ruffy might win this fight, man. I can't even lie. I have a weird feeling about this one, dog. Everyone's so sure that Arman Tsarukyan is just going to take him down and dominate him, and sure, that might happen. But I'm telling you, man, my spidey sensors are tingling. And when the spidey sensors are tingling and I listen to it, a lot of the time I'm right. And this is an early prediction. But I feel like Mauricio Ruffy, training with Volkanovski, the way that he maintains range, I feel like he might stuff these takedowns and bang Arman's ass up on the feet, man. I just can't get the vision out of my head. And by the way, I like both of these guys, right? You guys know I'm a big Arman Tsarukyan fan. I'm a massive Mauricio Ruffy fan, and I fancy myself a striker. So Ruffy's a guy that I love to watch, man. I take notes every time this guy fights. Reminds me of McGregor and Poatan together, the way that his style operates. But this is a guy that takes this serious. He's like, I'm going to go train with Volkanovski to get better. I'm going to start stopping these takedowns. And listen, I get it. On paper, kind of a bad matchup for Ruffy, also considering what BSD was able to do to Ruffy. But to be fair, Mauricio just didn't look right in that fight. I don't know if something was wrong with him. I don't know if it was because he was so worried about the grappling of BSD that he just didn't even really try to fight. Like, he was just so worried about the takedowns. He was so hesitant that he never gave himself a chance to win. And I know he had some moments here and there, and, BSD nowhere near the level of Arman Tsarukyan all across the board. Arman is better than everything at BSD in terms of, durability, cardio, wrestling, striking, all of the above. Arman Tsarukyan's the real deal. And I know that people feel like he got snubbed of getting a title shot, and the reality is maybe Charles Oliveira gets the title shot against Justin Gaethje, which is what I think the UFC should do, because Justin Gaethje, he's a legend, getting the big upset against Ilya. I feel like he is at the point where it's like legacy right now, right? And if he can go out there and get one back on Charles, who, by the way, is on an impressive 2-fight win streak to where he dominated Gamrot and finished him, and then dominated 50-45 Max Holloway in a BMF fight. And I know it was boring, but still it was domination. We've never seen anyone do that to Max. And Charles, one of those guys, UFC goes, bring, Charles, we need you. And he's like, let me know. Where Arman Tsarukyan, is he that guy? And I know that a lot of it is on the UFC, to be fair, but the reality is, on paper, Tapology, check it out, Arman Tsarukyan has had one fight since UFC 300, which was a split decision against Charles Oliveira. And that's why I wanted to see that one ran back, and then number one contender, winner fights for the belt, right? Maybe they do give Charles the fight. I'm not quite sure. Maybe they give the winner of this, the title shot. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But the reality is, man, Arman Tsarukyan, he better get Mauricio Ruffy down in a hurry. He better be working that really fast, athletic blast double that Khamzat shoots. Because I'm telling you right now, man, people are sleeping on Mauricio Ruffy heavy in this fight from what I've seen. Mauricio Ruffy absolutely has a chance to win this fight. And so much so that, as of right now, I'm kind of leaning in the direction of Ruffy pulling off some sort of big upset here. And I know MMA math, well, look what BSD did, so Arman should just destroy him. Arman Tsarukyan, I know he's doing all these grappling matches. I know that he dominated Dan Hooker, but what does that really mean at this point in time? It's still impressive, right? Took no damage, really. Took him down, was able to beat him up on the ground. It's still impressive, don't get me wrong. But we've seen Arman, if he's stuck on the feet, man, guys can land on him. And I'm telling you right now, there has not been a single striker that Arman has fought in his career, in my opinion, that is the level or even close to Ruffy. Ruffy's setting traps, he's walking you into things, and he's got one of those styles where if Arman fought Ilia Topuria, Ilia's got that boxing style like Canelo where he's going to kind of creep forward, and he's there in range to be taken down. Where Ruffy's got that long, rangy, karate-like style to where you have to really close him down. You really got to kind of get through that range to be able to get to him. And to be fair, Arman Tsarukyan's striking has actually gotten a lot better. So the more well-rounded fighter is Arman, like clearly. And he has an advantage on the ground. And I think if Arman gets him down, not only will it be bad for Ruffy, but he'll probably get ground and pounded out because Arman has some of the best ground and pound in the UFC, in history as well. And the submission game is nasty. But I'm telling you right now, man, people act like Arman Tsarukyan, and I'm an Arman fan, right? He's turned himself into a big star with the streaming and, the RAF stuff, and I love it, man, and I'm here for it. Arman's entertaining. He gets the game, knows how to market, all those kinds of things. But people are acting like this dude is invincible, man. They're acting like he can't be hit. They're acting like, he's just going to run through everyone. And maybe he just does run through Ruffy. I think that that's very possible. I like both of these guys, right? So I kind of don't wish I had to make a pick on this one. But for the sake of a pick, right, as of right now, I really don't know. I'm not sold on Arman Tsarukyan just destroying Mauricio Ruffy like it seems like everybody is. I think Mauricio Ruffy put some respect on his name. And maybe I'm a little bit biased because I pointed out Ruffy from the jump and up. This is my guy, man. I've been riding with him. Even though he lost to BSD, I'm like, he'll get back up and he'll figure this thing out. And training with Volk, and I know against Michael Chandler, Chandler's washed and old, but Chandler didn't even touch him. And Chandler's taken down basically everyone he's fought, and he couldn't even get even close to taking down Ruffy, really, right? And I know that was a layup, right? At the White House, it was all about a showcase fight. They were like, Chandler, you're not getting McGregor, but we'll give you a guy that fights like a prime McGregor, right? So you get close, but not the McGregor, right? We won't give you Conor, but we'll get you close, right? It was a showcase opportunity for Ruffy. This is about keeping Arman active, giving him a chance. He's been rather inactive to where, I want to see him fight for the belt, but off of merit and principle, he's the clear-cut guy, but he's been so inactive, it's hard to justify it, man. When you got these guys being active, willing to fight anybody, right? I'm pretty sure they offered Arman Gamrot at one point, and he's like, I'm good. And UFC's like, okay, because you pulled out of the fight against Islam, and again, a massive pay-per-view. Whenever you do that, sucks for business, man, and they have to have Moicano step in there, and so the UFC's going to hold it against him. The reality is, can't hold it against him forever. I think this is a banger matchup. I think this is a sick fight. So early lean, hey, man, I wouldn't be surprised if Ruffy goes out here and shocks the world. I really wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. So my early lean, I'm kind of thinking Ruffy, If Arman gets him down, he'll dominate Ruffy, but he's got to get him there first. And everyone always just assumes that the grappler is going to beat the striker. And I know that Arman is a world-class grappler. I completely understand that, but he hasn't been the most active. Ruffy's been active, training with Volk, great training partners, taking this thing really serious, as is Arman, right, to a degree. So I'm excited for it, man. I'm very, very excited for this fight. I think it's a lot better of a fight than what people think. Whoever gets it into their world, I think they dominate. And on the feet, Arman can't make mistakes against Ruffy. You just can't do it. And I feel like that BSD fight was a learning experience for Ruffy, you know? And this is 5 rounds too, I believe, right? So that to me favors Arman. He's the guy with more experience. He's fought in 5-rounders before. I believe that Gamrot fight was a fight night, 5-rounders. So I got questions about Ruffy's gas tank. We've seen him slow down in some fights. A lot of that is because he's beating guys up like James Yontop, who was overweight in that fight and super durable, right? So I'm just telling you now, man, Mauricio Ruffy, you don't knock out Fiziev like that if you're not super high level. The way he beat Bob King Green, look how well that's aged. Look how good King Green's looked. So, now I get it. Arman Tsarukyan in the prime of his career, elite, early lean, man. Thinking my guy, Ruffy, might surprise some people. And look how crazy 2026 has been with the upsets. And I get it. A lot of the upsets are the veteran guy upsetting, the new kid on the block, so to speak, like Strickland against Hamzat, Gaethje against Ilya. The list goes on and on. I don't know, man. It's going to be bad for somebody. It's going to be good for somebody because if they keep it in their world or get it into their world, they win. And then the other, if they don't get it into their world, I think they're getting finished. So, great matchup. I don't think it goes the distance. I think someone gets finished either way. But I have a feeling Ruffy working with Volk, I feel like that might pay dividends, and we might see that on full display in this matchup. So, early prediction, I'll lean Ruffy by KO. And main event, I'll lean Joshua Van by decision or later stage KO. So, again, early predictions, not my actual prediction. Got to watch more tape, give it more thought. But off the rip, this is how I feel. The rest of the card. We already talked about the main and co-main event. Great fights. Patricio Pitbull versus Doo-Ho Choi. This to me, I would have liked to have seen Doo-Ho Choi get like a higher ranked opponent, but this to me, it's pretty clear what the UFC is doing here. No business, right? People that are complaining about this fight, get the game. Understand what the UFC is doing here. Doo-Ho Choi is an OG of the fight game at this point. An unbelievable fight. One of my favorite fights of all time against Cub Swanson. Choi is he's a vet. He's been around for forever. And he's coming off of a sensational knockout against Willie Cat Santos. Throw him in there against Patricio Pitbull, who to me is washed in over the hill and has a 15 next to his name. So this is all about Doo-Ho Choi being on a big card, going out here and presumably beating the brakes off of Patricio Pitbull and probably knocking him out. Because Choi's got nasty boxing, very clean, very experienced. I think he gets in the face of Patricio Pitbull, stuffs the takedowns, bangs him up on the feet, and gets a round 3 knockout. That's what this is about. Getting Choi, a name in Pitbull, who a lot of people know, a lot of the hardcore fans, right? Because Pitbull was, a legend over in Bellator. He's not the same fighter, man. Sits on the back foot, just waits to spam a right hand. I don't think he's the same guy. I don't think he's taken Choi down, with a ton of success. Choi bangs him up with a crispy boxing and puts him away. Moicano Ortega. This is a great match. This is a great matchup, right? This is a rematch, too, because Ortega back in the day at featherweight submitted Moicano in round number 3. So this is a chance for some get back for Moicano. And honestly, I think Moicano wins this time around. Moicano looked really, really good against Chris Duncan. And I feel like Moicano's at the stage in his career where he's just having fun out there, right? I can see that in his game. He's just having fun out there. He did a great job of checking kicks, against Duncan. His jab was money. And the way Money Moicano, if he could get to the back, he's dangerous. But we know how this game goes. Brian Ortega, he's got some of the best pure jiu-jitsu in all of MMA. People forget, man, Brian Ortega may not be in his prime, but he could take a hell of a shot. He's super durable, dang near impossible to put away. Decent boxing, switches stances pretty well, and has a super high-level jiu-jitsu game. But I feel like the top control of Moicano and a little bit more pop that Moicano has in his striking these days, I feel like Moicano can put Brian Ortega on his backwards. You have to be careful because Ortega is dangerous everywhere. But I'll side with Moicano here by a competitive decision. I think he gets some get back. But that's a great fight. Very competitive and interesting style matchup. Alonzo Menefield, Iwo Baranuski, banger. This is a big step up for Baranuski. He's looked dang impressive, knocking everybody out. This dude doesn't know what it's like to get past the first round. He's going in here against Menefield, who's ranked 14. They just keep giving Alonzo these prospects, and the only guys that really beat Alonzo for the most part are guys that are going to be top of the food chain at 205 or a champion, like Carlos Ulberg. And Menefield's got nasty power, and he's been turning down a lot of these prospects and putting them away. But the reality is I think Baranuski is a lot better than a guy like Zhang Minyang, right? Like, I feel like Baranuski will butcher the lead leg of Menefield. Menefield will look to slug with the big overhand. Iwo will just time him with a big shot early. I think Iwo Baranuski knocks him out in the very first round. Either way, I think someone gets KO'd. That'll be a banger. Someone's getting finished. Gable Stevenson, Sean Sharaf. This is what the UFC should be doing with Gable Stevenson. He's only had 4 professional fights. And I know that DC and everyone's amping him up, man. He's going to be the GOAT. And they're not saying that, but that's how, people are like, well, this is going to be the next great thing. It's possible. Slow your roll. Yes, the guy is an unbelievable wrestler, man. Like, Gable Stevenson is a sensational, elite-level wrestler. Went out there in his UFC debut and knocked out Elisha Ellison, made it look easy, marched him down with zero respect and put it on him. And I know, whoa, man, he didn't even take him down and Ellison stuff to take down. Gable didn't even commit to a takedown, man. If he wanted to take down Ellison, he could have done it with ease. He could take down anybody probably in this weight class if he wants to, with ease. Keeping him down is a different story. But on the feet, his striking's getting so much better, and you can clearly tell he's training with John Jones. Look how he's switching stances, the little oblique shots, front kicks to the body. I think he'll come out hard and fast, batter the midsection of Sean Strickland, and end up getting another first-round knockout. This is the smart play by the UFC. Learn from your mistakes in the past. Hype the guy up a little bit, but don't go so overboard that you start to kind of make the fan base turn on him in a sense, right? So that's all I'm saying from the UFC's angle. But I like him being on another big card. I think he goes out there and makes it look really easy against Sean Strickland. And Marlo Vera, Charles Jourdain. I've been saying that my favorite fighter rep in Canada right now is Charles Jourdain. I know the UFC's pushing Mike Malott, who I think is maybe the best all-around fighter. Charles Jourdain, I think, is the most exciting. He's very fun on the feet. He's got a good, jiu-jitsu game. This will be a 29-28 split decision where Jourdain wins the first two. Vera turns it on late, maybe drops him, has some big moments, and then looks around like, I got robbed once again. Charles Jourdain, 29-28. Tai Tuivasa, Rebellis to Spain. I mean, I can't believe Tuivasa is still in the UFC. He's on like a 20-fight losing streak at this point. Tai Tuivasa doesn't look like he's committed to the game, man. And the reality is Rebellis to Spain. And how about, hey, man, people were crapping on that Netflix card. Look at all the fighters the UFC's kind of signed off of that. Rebellis to Spain, bringing him back, giving him another crack in the UFC, right? Saladin Parnasse, who's going to be fighting Dan Hooker in the main event of that Paris card. So, hey, man, it's fun seeing some of these, MMA things outside of the UFC. So, to Spain, he's going to knock out Tai Tuivasa in probably less than a minute. Rebellis to Spain's only problem is takedown defense, and it seems like he's been working on that to improve that aspect of his game, because that was his problem. Everyone would just take him down and keep him on the ground, and he couldn't get up. But on the feet, I mean, he's as nasty as it gets and can hang with just about anybody. He's nasty power. He's fast. And, I think he knocks out Tai Tuivasa within the first minute. Edmund Shabazian, Bruno Ferreira, good matchup. I lean a little bit towards Bruno Ferreira because I think he'll just throw more, right? Edmund Shabazian, I think, is a little bit sharper, but the reality is Edmund just gets a little bit too hesitant in there and doesn't throw enough. And, he's very technical, and I think he's, sharper than Bruno, but Bruno's got a solid ground game. I don't know that he takes down Shabazian, and both guys, Shabazian coming off of a loss to Brendan Allen, which was a big step up in competition. Actually, you know what? I'm leaning Shabazian, actually, because that was a big step up, and he had some moments against Brendan Allen. I think Brendan Allen's much better than Bruno Ferreira. You just got to watch out for the power of Bruno. But I do lean Edmund Shabazian, actually, right? Trains with Strickland. I think he's the more accurate striker, more precise, good takedown defense. We saw that against Allen. I'll lean Edmund Shabazian by a decision. Giga Chikadze, Joanderson Brito, great fight, because Brito's looked dang impressive. Giga Chikadze, if he keeps it on the feet, I think he busts up Joanderson Brito and can possibly knock him out or win a decision. But one of the holes in Chikadze's game can be with the grappling, right? It's improved for sure, right? Working with Dariush and stuff, but I feel like Joanderson Brito's pressure, might be a problem. But actually, early lean, I'm going to kind of lean in the direction of Giga. I think he's a little bit better than what people want to give him credit for. I know his chin's maybe not the same, but look at the guys he's losing to, man. Like Kevin Vallejos. Kevin Vallejos would destroy Joanderson Brito in probably like 2 minutes. I know Brito's good. I know he's on the up. He's got a good ground game, but Chikadze on the feet, man. People forget, man, he's a nasty kickboxer with really, really good speed and footwork. Casey O'Neill, Eduardo Mora, I have no idea. Maybe Casey O'Neill, she looked impressive her last time out. I don't know. I'll favor Casey O'Neill. Ryan Gandra, Ozzy Diaz. Yes. The classic, let's sacrifice Ozzy Diaz for a highlight KO. Ryan Gandra is nasty, man. He looks like he might be losing and getting kind of outscored, and eventually just lands a big shot and puts whoever away. So he's looking like a serious problem on the rise at middleweight. He'll knock out Ozzy Diaz in the very first round. Michael Feather Fist, Pillow Hands, Aswell Jr. versus Jusang Yu. I think Jusang Yu will actually finally crack the chin of Aswell. Aswell literally, the flyweights hit harder than Aswell. This guy's got no power. He doesn't sit into his shots. He throws these noodly, slappy punches. It's kind of pathetic, to be honest with you. Having a professional fighter who trains with Van in them, not picking up on how to dig into his boxing, it's embarrassing to watch, in my opinion. The guy is durable. Got banged up by Gaston Bolaños bad. Jusang Yu, I know, got checked a little bit, but He's very dangerous, an accurate striker. I think he goes out there and lands a big one on Michael Aswell or out damages him and wins a decision. But we'll have to see how the cardio holds up for you because we know Aswell won't get tired and can push a solid pace. And to be fair, had a decent showing against Luke Riley, but I feel like you can bang him up. So that's my thoughts on UFC 331. I think that this is a really good card. I know there's a bunch of people complaining, why this fight? Why? This is a great card. This is a great card. It's loaded. And when you look at the matchmaking, strategic, right? Giving Choi a big, in my opinion, that's the way I look at it. Giving Choi a big opportunity to get a highlight KO over a ranked guy with a name. Moicano Ortega, great matchup. Menafield, who's the prospect tester, who's always in a fun fight against Baranowski, who's looking great. So we should get a highlight KO there. Slow build for Gable. Marlon versus Jordan makes a ton of sense for the division and can get Charles Jordan, presumably into the top 10. Getting Robelis to Spain, a welcome back party into the UFC with a free KO. Shabazian and Fadeda is very competitive. Giga and Anderson, Joe Anderson Brito's a fun fight. Casey O'Neill and Mora, that's a solid WMMA fight. Gandra Diaz, highlight KO. Aswell and you, high-paced fight. So I feel like this is actually a really, really, really solid card overall. I know that there's a time and a place. Like, could it always be better? Of course. Maybe another ranked fight here, another ranked fight there, maybe a title fight, whatever. The reality is, I'm really happy with this card. Hey, your boy might even have to try to pull up to this one out in LA. So California love. Yeah, I'm excited for this card, man. I'm excited for it. But if you guys enjoyed this video, do me a favor. Please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And if you are new, if you could subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. And spend some of those hype points and help your boy out. I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next time.